All right, welcome back to part 2 of our Ohio State Buckeye Season Preview. I'm your host, Just Matt, back again with the man, the Dire Wolf, Casey Dyer. We're ready to talk about and break down the Buckeye schedule after we broke down the team and what we're expecting from both sides of the ball, every position group, the new coaching staff on the defense. Now we're ready to just tell how they're going to rip apart everyone on their schedule and then go through some gambling odds. See what we're looking like, especially for Heisman odds and Big Ten championship odds and things like that. So let's get started.
Cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right. I am ready to unleash on you, Dire Wolf there. So the Buckeyes schedule this year sets up really nicely for them, I think, for the most part. Got big game early. Then we got a couple of tune-ups to come down from the big game. Then another big matchup to start off the Big Ten season at the end of September. Our bye week comes like smack dab in the middle of the season. And at an opportune time. It's through probably what is the toughest 3-game stretch we have at Michigan State, home against Iowa, at Penn State. And then we, of course, end the season against Scum, against that team up north. After what I think a lot of people are already calling our trap game of the year, but we'll see about that. We'll talk about that later. But let's start out with the opener here coming up and just at the end of this week here. Notre Dame, Buckeyes 15-point favorites at what I've been looking at lately, but it's been generally around the 14 to 15 and a half point range. Notre Dame returns a lot of talent at the top end, but they are breaking in a new quarterback. They are coming off a loss to Oklahoma State in their bowl game. New head coach, though, Marcus Freeman, former Buckeye. I played against him back in the day. Had a couple tackles on him. Had a nice block on a fake punt. Well, I sort of just bounced off him, so he was a beast. But I don't know. What do you think about that? Opening up with the Irish, huge game. Haven't played him since the Fiesta Bowl a few years ago.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped about it. They haven't beat us since like the 40s or something like that. So
not like we've played frequently though.
Yeah, true. But it's eerily similar to the story of the Oregon game coming in, I think. Because I think the spread was almost exactly the same. Mm-hmm. They had literally never beaten us. We were 8-0 against them, I think.
First round pick at the end, although he did not play against us.
Yeah. So the gambler in me sees that high spread, and that makes me think Vegas is wanting people to bet on Notre Dame because it's a top 5 matchup. Like, who's going to win by 15 points? So that makes me think Vegas thinks that we're going to kill them.
Vegas, I don't think would have Notre Dame at number 5. Their over under is 8 on wins. Total is 8.5, which is not a top 5 team at all.
Yeah. I mean, but that's probably what I was saying last year about Oregon too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, obviously the elephant in the room is the defense. If they're up to snuff, then it's going to be a long day for Notre Dame, I think.
Oh yeah, their quarterback was an excellent runner in the spot duty that he had last year, which could provide some issues for us. I mean, we don't. Obviously, it's always a tough task to handle those type of athletic quarterbacks to begin with, and when you're breaking into a new defense, assignments tend to get blown, and usually it's athletic quarterbacks that can exploit that blown assignment, especially if somebody loses contain or isn't spying properly or whatever they're going to do. Notre Dame's got a lot of guys going in the first round in a lot of these mock drafts too. That tight end especially could also hurt us. I'm not going to be surprised if they score some points on us. I think the over-under was 58.5 as well. That seems low to me given what our offense brings back. And I mean, they have a good defense, and obviously Freeman's a defensive coach, but they I don't see anybody holding this team under 40 points, and I'm not sure this defense is going to be quite at the level that they're going to hold Notre Dame under 20, and they're over 60 already.
So that would be like they're thinking the game's going to be like a 35-24 ish.
Yeah.
Is what they're that.
If they're at 15, it's more like, I guess like 36-21, something like that.
Weird, but yeah. So that does seem a little off, because I would think, I mean, it's all about the defense. If they keep getting the offense the ball back, force some turnovers, and the way Stroud has talked about how he has struggled against this defense in practice, because they show all these different looks, and they surprise them, they confuse them. So imagine a new quarterback coming into the shoe seeing that. So I'm thinking it'll be a long day for him if everything that they're telling us is true.
Notre Dame's going to play probably the two best defensive lines in college football. Well, two of the three best with us and Clemson this year. So they'll get their first test here. I believe Holly Rowe from ESPN was just at Ohio State yesterday and posted on Twitter that the D line was freakish. Like she was. That's what she took away from the practice, is look out for that D line. Like the big thing that scares me about this game is that everybody's just like on us right now. Just same way as Oregon. Same way as Oregon last year, where everybody's just, it's almost like a foregone conclusion. And like, no, they're actually a pretty good team. I mean, I don't think they're a great team, just like Oregon, but they're a pretty good team.
That's what has me worried too. Everybody seems to be just frothing at the mouth over us. Like, I don't know. That whole thing just makes me a little worried. I mean, I, of course, think we're going to win, but it seems like the media that line is pretty crazy for a top 5 matchup.
It is. But I think, like I said, I think the number 5 ratings. Notre Dame is one of those schools that gets a little bump in the preseason just based on name recognition alone, I think. But yeah, I think it's an easy one. I think we cover. I think it's something in the neighborhood of like 45-24, something like that.
That's what
I'm not. It could be a lot worse, to be honest. If we go out there and beat their ass like 56-14, which is not, I don't think, out of the realm of possibility, the expectations are, and the pressure is going to become unfathomable, I think, for this team.
So let's ask that question. If we beat them 56-14 and Alabama's playing God knows who in that first game, is there a chance we jump them going into week 2?
Yeah. Well, I think in the AP, yes, because they tend to want to be more like the College Football Playoff Committee, which is more based on data points and not based on, as it should be. I think the more you play, the more you learn about a team. You should change them significantly. It doesn't matter where you had them at the preseason. I think preseason polls are dumb as hell, because how could you possibly know what a team looks like?
They are dumb, and it seems to bias the SEC, of course. But the logical part of me thinks, oh, absolutely. If number 2 pounds number 5, they should be. But it's Alabama. Yeah. So,
and if Alabama goes out and wins 63-0 against their first opponent, and then they play Texas, I believe, week 2, and spank them, they'll be. I don't think they'll get. I think it'll matter after week 2. If we spank Notre Dame, and then our week 2 opponent will move on is Arkansas State. There's not much to talk about in that's such a mismatch talent-wise. We'll spank them. If Alabama doesn't destroy Texas, if it's maybe a 35-24 game, like we were saying earlier, then maybe we go ahead and jump them, because we did something against our big opponent and they had not yet. Yeah. And Georgia plays Oregon early in the season as well. I think week 1 too. So they could also jump Bama if Bama doesn't come out hot, but I expect Bama to come out hot. I expect Bama to look really well. Things I'm reading online about their alliance seems like have gotten it together, and I'm a big fan of their tailback they got from Georgia Tech. But I don't think they can handle us in the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Clemson, I don't know their schedule, but I'm not sure who they play in the non-conference, but they're not jumping anybody.
They got Notre Dame and South Carolina as their 2 big ones, but they're not early in the season.
Okay.
Yeah, early, they have pretty manageable early schedule. Besides, I think they have an early conference game. All right, so week 2 though, Arkansas State, total mismatch. Kyle McCord game for sure. Second half. I will say, in a lot of these games, Day tends to keep the starters out there a little longer than I think most coaches do.
Yes, he does. Like,
And
even if I remember back at the Michigan State game, we scored like damn near every possession in the first half, and we were up like 35-0 at halftime. And then I'm Stroud, second half. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Like
the classic.
I mean, he was a redshirt freshman still. He wants to keep getting reps, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't worth the risk. I hope that's not the case this year.
Yeah, shouldn't be. Then September 17th, week 3, Toledo, same a primetime game there against Toledo on Fox.
I will say we're going to smack them, but they're not the same as Arkansas State. They're not going to be like a win 56-0 easily type of team. I don't think they went
you forget the 2019 team here under Day. I think Day's like Cooper. He will shit stomp you if he feels like it.
I guess my point is I think they're significantly better than Arkansas State.
Possibly. I mean, to be honest, I'm not huge on what either team's going to look like. And the MAC, my bowl betting strategy for everybody there: bet against the MAC. You will win money. Bet against the MAC. Then we kick off this is where we start getting to the meat of the schedule, and here's a game worth talking about for sure. Week 4 against Wisconsin at home. So we start off our first 5 games are at home. Wisconsin, typical Wisconsin team. Solid defense coached by Jim Leonard, who I wanted us to hire when we hired Kerry Combs. And then again, I wanted us to hire well, maybe not last year. I wanted Knowles. I mean, I already knew he was probably coming here early on in the process. But, yeah, when we hired Combs, I definitely wanted Jim Leonard. He decided to stay put at Wisconsin, his alma mater. Always has a sound, smart, complicated defense, not easy to decipher. The only times they struggle is when they get out-athleted, which we can do.
Yeah. Yep. And they always we've the game.
Yeah.
Which they
yeah. We see it time and time again. But then they have the tailback, and I like Braden Allen a lot. That's your typical big pounder. Reminds me of Derrick Henry. I mean, I don't think he's as good as Henry, but the upright style of running and how big he is. And he shredded last year, second half of the season especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they worry me a little bit, but it seems like the last few times we've played them, it's been away for whatever reason. And that's when they've given us more trouble.
Definitely, yeah.
So the
Camp
fact
Randall's not easy.
No, I'd say, I mean, there's a number of tough places to play in the Big Ten. It seems like half of them are probably top 25 hardest stadiums to play in.
But not all of them are they throwing batteries at you like they like to go to Wisconsin.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they end the year, they're going to be right there in the Big Ten West. I'd actually probably be surprised if they didn't win the Big Ten West. So we might end up playing them twice. We'll see.
I expect to see them again unless, I mean, we don't play Minnesota. That's of the teams that are generally considered to be the top 3 there, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. And Nebraska is a lot of people's dark horse this year. How many years have we said that? And it doesn't come to fruition.
Never. I'll bet them to cover the spread because they play in close games, but I got to see it to believe type of thing with them. And was it 19 when we played Wisconsin twice too? And then we didn't really look that great in the Big Ten championship because
right. That's correct. Fields
was kind of banged up.
That's what it feels. So we destroyed them. Chase Young specifically went absolutely bonkers against them. 4 sacks, I believe, against them. In the home game. Yeah, we annihilated them and then struggled in the Big Ten champ. They came out hot too against us. Cone actually had a really nice game in the first half, had some big runs, and Jonathan Taylor was still there as well, and had a big touchdown run in the first half. And then we took over in the second half, but it was not the prettiest thing in the world.
I don't think we covered. I think it was like a 10-point game or something. We were probably 2 touchdown favorites.
I think we were even higher than that, and it was like a 10 to 14 point win. Yeah. It cost us the 1 seed too. I mean,
Yeah.
LSU played really well in both their last game and in the SEC championship that year.
That's what still pisses me off to this day. Not only did we get screwed in that Clemson game, but we shouldn't have ever even been playing Clemson.
I agree.
It should have been Clemson, LSU, and we would have stomped. I assume, was it Oklahoma?
Yeah,
maybe
Oklahoma that got annihilated by LSU first.
LSU most likely in the title.
Yeah, which is what everybody. I mean, they were two of the greatest teams in history statistically, both of them in the same season, and we didn't get that matchup because Trevor Lawrence needs to be protected, and fumbles aren't fumbles apparently. Yeah, stew over it a little bit. Stew over it. Yeah. All right, so Wisconsin though, ABC game, so very possibly a night game as well. I don't know if they're going to want to go back to back. They could though. That'd be 3 of the first 4 games in prime time too. Fun times. Sometimes it's a good year to be a season ticket holder. I will say that it's a pretty solid home schedule.
Yeah. My brother's got season tickets, and it's crazy. It's how many is it? 8? 8 home games.
8 home games, and you got Notre Dame and Wisconsin and Iowa and Michigan all at home.
Yeah, that's probably that might be the best home slate we've ever had. I mean, thinking back,
trying to think,
like
when I was in school, those are the ones I remember the best.
The U.S.
Texas was a nice one.
I can't remember who we played on the cross in the Big Ten West in those years, but I mean, it doesn't get much better than Wisconsin and Iowa from the West.
Well, when I was in school, there was no East and West.
Yeah.
There was no championship game. I'm an old man.
There wasn't either. Well, it might have been legends and leaders towards the end of when I was in school.
Mm-hmm. Jim Delaney, marketing genius. All right. After Wisconsin, though, we bust into October, and it's a relatively easy kickoff with Rutgers to start off the season. You never know there. Greg Schiano is a hell of a coach. He's improved that program dramatically. Like Michigan State, they've plundered the transfer portal to the best of their abilities, try and scoop up some guys. A lot of ex-Buckeyes ended up out there. They got Jalen Berger from Wisconsin, who transferred in there to play tailback. So it's a game if you fall asleep, but it's at home. It is sandwiched between Wisconsin, though, and then at Michigan State, which I'm not super high on Sparty this year. But if they are off to a hot start, then we could be a tricky trap game. Could be the first candidate as a trap game on the year.
It reminds me, and we'll talk about them later, I'm sure, but it reminds me of an Indiana type of game where they never beat us, but it seems like they're always like just pesky.
Oh, we beat them like an average of like 59-7 the first 6 years in the league, but they have been since Schiano got there. It's been different. They have been much more of a
just this year I can see it being like in Indiana of recent memory.
Indiana has been the proverbial thorn in the side, minus last season.
Yeah,
but that's
Rutgers in the past however many years, it's usually like 55-0 or something like that.
Oh yeah. Just brutality. I mean, it's a 0% chance of a lost game. Like was Notre Dame's I think I'll give like a 20%. Yeah, because they have the guys that if the tight end gets hot, we struggle a little bit on defense, and then they have a first round pick at the end that if he goes ham against our relatively unproven left tackle, then maybe they make it a game. Wisconsin's I think more like a 10% just because it's the style and the athletic mismatch that it is. I mean, if we fall behind, obviously it's scary, but we've come back against them. It's at home, and I'm not too worried about it. The next game after Rutgers, though, at Michigan State, at Sparty, I think they're the biggest regression candidate in the conference. Last year, that was easily Indiana who did it, and they went from being off the radar in the COVID year and going 5-1, beating both Penn State and Michigan, and giving us all we could handle after we jumped out all over them, and then Justin Fields turned into Joe Bosserman for a half for some reason. Probably his worst game.
35-point lead, and it ended up
28.
being Was it
I think
20?
we were 35-7, and then they
and then we won
all
like
the way back.
35 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, it got down to 35-28. We scored, and then they scored, and yeah, stupidity. But I think there's a big part of that. And then last year, Indiana stunk and didn't even sniff a bowl game. And I think a lot of that is something that a lot of teams have to face when you become the hunted, when you're on the radar. And it's not that they get up for you that week. It's not that all of a sudden, oh yeah, we gotta bring our A game this week. It's in the off season. Suddenly you're getting an extra hour every week, or maybe another 15 minutes every day, where the coaches are breaking you down and specifically trying to figure out how they're going to beat you next year. And then all of a sudden, the talent, like maybe you played over your head from a talent perspective. You can't just overcome it with the fact that they're overlooking you anymore. It just doesn't work that way for that season. And then you get what happened to Indiana last year. They got put right back down into the cellar.
Yep. And I mean, last year they were a really good team, but it was like the worst possible matchup for them. Their pass defense was, were they the
Michigan State? Yeah.
Was Michigan State's the worst pass defense in the country? I think it was.
I believe they were. I know Mel Tucker has personally, the $95 million man Mel Tucker has personally taken over the secondary, which is what his forte was when he was coaching Alabama as an assistant.
But still, you don't turn the worst pass defense in the country into like a top 20 pass defense, which is what it requires to stop us.
Not without, we're talking about ours jumping from in the 60s to top 10, but that's because there's a lot of 5-star talent. Michigan State does not have that.
Yeah.
They have rated the transfer portal well, though. They have added some good. Actually, they added Jalen Berger. What am I talking about? Rutgers doesn't have him. They did, but they have added a lot of good pieces again through the transfer portal. They have a decent quarterback in Peyton Thorne. They have a good receiver that played high school ball with him, I think, and Reed. They're not a team you can sleep on, but I don't think I think they're a 7-win team. They've won a lot of close games last year, and statistically they weren't rated as nearly as an 11-win team that won a New Year's Six bowl game against Pitt without their quarterback, without Kenny Pickett. But it's a game I think when coming in they won't be as highly rated, and like you said, you don't just fix that pass defense overnight when it's that bad. Like that's atrocious, and like you said, nobody's stopping this offense. Unless they get one of those games like 2015 where we got a lot of. We don't need to talk about it. Let's not even talk about it. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I mean. As far as the winning percentages, the chances that we were talking before, if that game was at home, I'd say it's 5% that they beat. But we're away, so I'd give it maybe 15 at best.
I'm going 5. I think there's just a mismatch there. It's just schematically, it's a problem for him.
Yeah.
Then we have that vaunted bye game that we're undefeated in, but also we haven't ever beat them. But I'm a new dad, so here comes the dad jokes. But I think it comes at an opportune time, right in the middle of the season there. It should be. We got three of our 4 preseason ranked opponents are right there for us to beat. I'm not too worried about any of those games, and then we get a nice slow rest there, and then it comes a back-to-back game that's a back-to-back set of games that's pretty difficult. Home against Iowa. Obviously, last year they also were like Michigan State, played over their heads, and they have tended to go the up and down. That like them and Northwestern decide to switch off years of who's going to be good and who isn't. Seems like, but Kirk Ferentz, the perpetual Big Ten Coach of the Year,
every time
for overachieving with his roster that he recruited all these times that are not as good as everybody else. So it's why how does it take so long for an Ohio State coach to win the damn thing? And Kirk Ferentz just wins it perpetually because he sucks the year before.
Yeah, you're recruiting, so you can't win Coach of the Year.
Because recruiting is not part of coaching, right?
Yeah. It's probably half of it, to be honest.
More than that at this point. More than that at this point. But Saban's great at developing and game planning. He's winning all these national championships because he's got a bunch of first-round picks on his team.
Yeah.
And they were first-round picks coming out of high school. They were supposed to be first-round picks.
But they went there because he's been winning.
Yeah. So it's, chicken or egg. But home game against them, the last time we played them, they did spank our little behinds in Iowa City to the 10-54.
I am not worried at all about
Any good coach worth of salt with the bye week especially can just put that score up on there, say, this is what they did to us last time, boys. Don't sleep on them.
55-24, like that was a bigger embarrassment than Purdue. And that's saying something.
That was a complete meltdown all around on the team. That's I feel it was Urban's worst loss. Well, maybe 31-0 to Clemson, but either way,
at least that's playoffs.
Yeah, at least they were a playoff team. That Iowa team was not that good, and like Iowa was a top 10 team most of the year last year, but they weren't that good. They had an incredible turnover luck. They're the Arizona Cardinals of college football last year, where it's just. If you get a lot of turnovers, and a lot of the turnovers were converted into pick sixes or scoop and scores or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they regressed to the mean. I think Brian Ferentz, their offensive coordinator, stinks, and it's nepotism at its worst. Sorry, Iowa fans, that you're stuck with that because it's ugly to watch, and doesn't produce results. But then the next week we're at the Nittany Lions, who are coming off a rough year, but at Penn State it will not be a whiteout game. Because of the World Series, finally that works in our favor, where it's not the night game because of that.
Seriously, it's like the first time in forever that it's not a whiteout.
Yeah, and every time they came here, it's not a night game because except last year it was. But
so that game, obviously behind the true most worrisome game, but that game is probably the one I'm worried about the most.
Interesting.
Even more than Notre Dame, just because of the recent. I mean, they've only beaten us, I think. Is it just once?
Just that 1 year, Franklin. If you're talking about recent memory,
But twice it's been a 1-point game, and those are both at home. Or they weren't at home, but
the JT Barrett game the week before Iowa when he went ham in the fourth quarter and set all kinds of records.
16 in a row or 20 in a row or something like that. Huge comeback. And then Haskins did it the very next season against when Barkley returned the kickoff for opening kickoff.
That was in the Barrett game. That was the Barrett game where we couldn't cover kicks.
So I guess what I'm saying is they seem to the past 5 years, except last year wasn't really that close. But in recent history, they've been a thorn in our side. We've won the majority, but still, that one concerns me a little bit.
It does only me because, like you said, it's been close, and it hasn't made sense. The year we lost, we dominated that game from scrimmage, but we missed kicks and actually had, obviously had the field goal block that was returned for a touchdown that won the game for them. And it's like every year, it feels like we outgain them by 100 to 200 yards. Like it's every statistic says we should have won the game by 2 scores easily, taking some knees, and we're scratching and clawing to come back at the end.
And even the 2019 year, I was at that Penn State game, and I mean, we dominated everybody that year in the regular season, and I'm pretty sure we only beat them by like
11,
13 or something like that.
I think 28-17. I think we beat them that year.
Okay, yeah, something. Yeah,
we had a lot of fumbles. J.K. had a fumble, which he never fumbled.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that was the closest game of the entire season until obviously Clemson.
Yeah, it was.
It's like it's just something about them. Like Notre Dame's good, but it's at home. If Notre Dame was away, they'd be my number 2 most concerned team. But Penn State being away, it's not as concerning as Wisconsin or Iowa or Michigan State. So I'd say they're the second.
It's not a trap game, but yeah, I'd say it's in the point of the schedule too, where you had a decently tough opponent the previous 2 weeks, and even they got the bye in there. And yeah, weird things happen, but it's during the day. We're way more talented. And Sean Clifford is back for his 11th year at quarterback for Penn State. And I think that plays into our favor. I think he's not a good quarterback. The kid they got out of Ohio, their recruit Drew Aller. I like him a lot. Wish he was here. Unfortunately, everything that went with Quinn Ewers kind of drove him away from us. Unfortunately, even though I like Devin Brown, but I think Aller's got some huge potential. But luckily, he's a true freshman, and there's a 11th year senior ahead of him, so I'm not too worried about him this year. He'll be in some packages, I'm sure, but
I don't know if it would have kept him away. Aller could have potentially kept Raiola from coming, but it might not have.
Yeah.
That's just in the back of my mind that I'm just trying to think of it as, glass half.
You, Casey Dyer, glass half full? Color me shocked. After we get done with the Nits Halloween weekend, we got travel to Northwestern, so back-to-back road games. You know they're going to grow the grass lawn. Nerds. They have a top 10 pick at tackle, most likely. So they got some talent. They've turned out some good tackles in the past. They've given us some games in Northwestern. I remember when they beat Tressel back in the day, back when I was in school. But overall, they're plus 50,000 to win the Big Ten, I believe. They're not that talented of a team. They got, it's just such a mismatch when they play teams like Ohio State that they just, man for man, just can't go all game with them.
I was going to say that could be a trap game because we just played Iowa and Penn State. And nobody's picking them, but once you just said plus 50,000,
yeah,
that number jumps out at you. I mean,
but it's every other year Northwestern. They look like they can't play a lick one year, and then all of a sudden they're playing us in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, and they were playing us tough. We needed 200 and whatever yards at Sherman.
I was at the previous one against Haskins, and they kept it close with us for a while there when we needed to blow them out to try and get into the playoff, which we ended up not being able to do, possibly because of that.
Yeah.
Week after that, though, those Hoosiers who we were told were going to be by Tom Allen that they were there to stay, and then they quickly went right back down to their place. They went and got their shine box. Go get your fucking shine box.
What did they get? Were they 500 or less?
No, they were under. They were like 4-8. They were bad. They had a lot of injuries. Penix got injured again. He's gone now. He transferred.
Yeah. The penis.
The penis. Yeah. I'm not. It's a home game. They've obviously given us a lot of weird, like Penn State. Weird things tend to happen in that game, and they're suddenly like within a score going into the fourth quarter, and you're like, it's Indiana, man. But we haven't lost to them since 1988, I believe. So
that's the thing to remember. It's like it was
0% chance game of the loss. Penn State, by the way, I'll give 0% chance against Iowa too, to be honest. Penn State 10% chance.
See, I'm saying 25. Well, I said 20 for Notre Dame, so I'm going to say 25 for Penn State.
Yeah. I think we're rolling at that point. Yeah, Indiana, it's not a game. However, the week after that, this has been most prognosticators' actual trap game for some good reason. It's at Maryland, week before Scum, November 19th. I remember watching a game against Maryland the week before Scum with you not too long ago, 52-51 shootout 2018.
Yeah.
Where neither team could stop me. I could have been rumbling around for a few scores that day, I think.
Plus, we got Tungavaloa's brother.
We do. And while he had some terrible games like Iowa, I think there's 6 picks against him last year. He also had some really good games.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think you can take them lightly. Hopefully, I just hope last year losing 2 games the way they did, they won't take anybody lightly, is what I'm hoping.
I think there is too. I mean, the thing is, Maryland's recruited really well. Like the past couple of years, they have some 5-star guys. Jarrett, receiver. We wanted him. That's one that got away from us. I mean, I know it was weird. They had a linebacker that was also like a highly recruited 5-star guy. They have talent there. Two of his brothers, a huge talent. Mike Loxley is a terrible coach, though. He's just never does. He's the opposite of Kirk Ferentz. He's underachieving with all the talent. He's the anti-coach of the year, generally. And I don't believe in them to be able to beat us, but they could put a scare. I would not be stunned if we're trailing at halftime and then outscore them by 28 in the second half. Because there's just a level we have against most of these teams. There's just a level we have that they don't have. And I do trust Ryan Day to bring the A game out of us. If it's in there, he's going to bring it out of us for at least a half in every game, and that's all it's going to take most of the time.
That's all it's going to take in the regular season for sure.
Except for this next game.
Yeah.
Everybody's got circled on the calendar. I saw today Michigan posting it's been 578 days since Ohio State beat Michigan because they chickened out and didn't want to come take their whooping in the COVID year when they were an absolute piece of trash team that had no chance against us. But
would have been 4 touchdown favorites or something like that.
Easily. I mean, they went 2-4. They were awful.
Yeah.
Back at the shoe, though, they ranked number 6 and number 8 in the 2 polls preseason. Nooner, Big Noon Fox. They fuck them. Is that the first part? Fuck Michigan. I'm gonna break my F-bomb rule here.
Yeah, it's PG.
First things first. First things first. Well, I just did 2, so okay. F that too. I hate Jim Harbaugh. I do think he's a pretty good coach, I guess, because their results aren't. You think they're underachieving, but then you're like, oh, they win like 11 games here. They just can't beat us, basically, or win a bowl game. Yeah. Which they finally beat Michigan State with any sort of regularity. They still haven't beat both of us in the same year since he got there. He's overrated as can be, but he also does get better results than they've had from any coach since early Lloyd Carr. But they return a ton on offense, a ton. Just about everybody but Haskins is back. That matters. And then they added they lost their center, but they added the transfer from Virginia. That's a stud. He's a Remington candidate. They're going to be good on all. I think both their tailbacks are legit good. Quorum and Edwards. They're both highly recruited guys who we were in on. I mean, I don't like them as nearly as much as Trayvon Henderson, but they can do some things. And all their top 6 receivers are back or something like that. Their tight ends back. Obviously their quarterbacks are back, but it is a little bit of a quarterback controversy going on there. JJ McCarthy being a 5-star kid that hasn't quite gotten in the field yet. They could pose problems if this defense isn't fixed. Mm-hmm. Now, defensively, they lost what was their defense, which is their 2 stud DNs and then their safety up the middle, Dax Hill, all first-round picks. They have not recruited, and I can't emphasize this enough. If you look at their recruiting, they have not recruited at a level they should be beating Ohio State with regularity at all. Ryan Day is going to be pissed off for this game. I think we trounce them. I think we're not huge favorites in the early. I think it's somewhere between 10 and 14 points for it from depending on where you look. I think this should be a thrashing. This should be Woody going for 2 because he couldn't go for 3, 50-14 type of ass kicking that is cathartic for the soul of the Buckeye Nation.
It definitely. So
let's talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, it should be. I'm definitely it's so early, but I'm concerned about it for sure. I mean, it's the rivalry game, but just all that shit talk from all the fans, I don't know, the players probably don't hear that crap, but they've heard plenty of it.
Not like Michigan players haven't talked shit either.
Yeah.
Katie McNamara said some things.
They win once a freaking decade. That whole Heisman crap ceremony when Desmond saying that bullshit on stage. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. It worries me because they are good. And I'd probably jump it up to a 35% because that's definitely the one that worries me the most. But
I do always have the pit in my stomach for that game. The 1 versus 2 game, I'll never forget.
I was there.
Just how nervous I was. Yeah, I was. We were both there in the stadium. I took home a chunk of the field
Me too.
afterwards. My mom killed it. Thanks.
It's still my
It was they. I think they'll be 10-1 coming into. Their schedule is laughable out of conference, with Colorado State being their biggest game, and then I think they have Maryland early. They should start 4-0, no problem.
That could be a good segue into the gambling part, right?
First though, I think, are you going to be happy if they're 10-1 coming in there, Casey? Do we need to talk about that right now, or should we save it for the week? How you like to root for Michigan every week, but when they play us,
I'm all about Ohio State's best chance to make it into the playoff. So let's say we lose a game, right?
Puke.
And the odds aren't that of this scenario happening. But if we were to lose a game and we were, say, 5, right? Mm-hmm. And Michigan is undefeated and they're like 2, and we thrash them, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And every other team ahead of us wins that week. I guess that's a bad example. Say we're 6.
Say 5, we're in.
Yeah.
If we thrash
say we're 6 and they're 2. Okay, so we obviously jump them if we thrash them, and then everybody else ahead of us wins. We're jumping one of those teams and we're getting in. Whereas if Michigan was shit and they're 6-5 and we thrash them, we're not jumping anybody.
We play 11 in Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game. We jump everybody then.
This 2016 is a perfect.
The problem is if they're actually good, things like last year are more likely to happen. And that's where it disgusts me that you feel this way.
And
it's
after
like borderline, like why I don't want to be your friend, but I like being your friend.
And after that game, I felt your I felt it. Exactly what you're talking about.
I think I felt it more in this offseason, though, because this is why I didn't want it. The amount of chirping coming out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I get it. It's pin up, but holy crap, man.
Yeah, like if we lost 9 in a row and then we beat them, I'd be talking some shit for like a month, right?
Not all year.
But I'm saying after that, I'd be like, okay, they've been whooping our ass. Let's just hold it down until this becomes a consistent thing. Yeah. Because we're going.
We win one at their house before I get too thumping my chest too much.
Yeah. It would have been different if they would have won the damn title.
Right, and then they went and got. I mean, they destroyed Kirk Ferentz, being Kirk Ferentz.
Yeah.
And then they got destroyed by a great Georgia team. Yeah. But huge game. I think we beat their ass. I'm gonna say right now, I'll say 56-14 there too. I think we absolutely kicked their ass. I don't, because if our defense is as good as we're hoping, that's a rudimentary offense. Even if it is returning everybody, it's not like they're doing stuff that can't be stopped. If they get fit, whenever, since Harbaugh's been there, whenever they are physically matched at the line of scrimmage, they don't do anything. Now it's even against inferior teams, because you have weeks that you don't bring your A game or your offensive line's not cohesive for whatever reason, you're not doing it. But they get stymied. They got plenty of games they could have lost earlier last year where they just couldn't move. Nebraska should have beat them last year, and it didn't happen. And that's a damn shame because it helped them get in help Casey though.
Wait, why did it help me? Oh yeah,
because Michigan won.
Yeah,
for Michigan.
It would have only helped me if we beat them.
Yeah. But big game. I do expect top 10 matchup. Everybody there. And we continue our march towards the rematch from 2020 with Alabama and stomp them. Then possible Big Ten championship game. I think it's Wisconsin or Minnesota. I feel like are the two. And it wouldn't surprise me either way. But Wisconsin, it would probably surprise me if Wisconsin's not there. Whenever they have this sort of setup with the running back and the defense, they have a veteran quarterback, even if he's not as good as we recruited Grant Mertz really hard. Ryan Day wanted him. And he ended up choosing Wisconsin, but this is a while ago when we were still running Urban's offense, I think, or just coming off of Urban's offense. and Fields had come in too. And I think that's 2 wins, and maybe the second one's closer than the first, or vice versa. But it doesn't matter. Wisconsin they haven't been able to beat us even with Russell Wilson. They just have not been able to beat us for the past decade, just because of the sheer difference in talent on the teams, top to bottom.
I hope it's Minnesota, just so we don't have to play them twice. But yeah.
All right, let's go look at these Big Ten championship odds, though. I asked you earlier, and just to get a gauge where you're at, though. We'll start with the bottom teams, though. For all that value, man. What did they say? If you get 10,000, Kevin on The Office, if you get 10,000 to ones on anything, you have to take it.
Yep.
You have to take it. So these aren't 10,000 to 1, but they're like 5,000 to 1. Northwestern plus 50,000, Rutgers plus 50,000. The bottom two, and actually, I don't think they should be the bottom two. I wish I could get like some sort of weird value bet on that I could trade it out later, but then Indiana at 20 plus 25,000 sounds about right. Illinois plus 20,000, they could be plus 50,000 too. Bert's a better coach than they've had, but they don't have talent either. Maryland at plus 15,000. That's where I'd make, if you throw $10 down, not a bad day. $1,500. If they do somehow, they may have the talent if they could somehow upset Ohio State. They're not going to make it in. Then we get down to teams that have an actual shot, mainly because of the side of the conference they're on. For a lot of these teams being in the West, Purdue plus 3,300. I like them a lot. Aiden O'Connell's a good quarterback. I think Braum actually is a good coach. They could be the sneaky sleeper in the West. It wouldn't shock me if they ended up playing us in the championship game. Michigan State plus 2,500. We talked about them. I think they're due for a little bit of regression. Minnesota plus 2,500. There's good value because I think they have a good chance of making it. They veteran on their D line, the veteran quarterback. Their tailbacks are top notch. Maybe the second best duo in the Big Ten behind it, or maybe third best with behind Michigan as well. And PJ Fleck, so I think he's perfect for that kind of situation. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Iowa plus 2,000. Yuck. You're throwing away your money.
Yeah.
Nebraska plus 1,800. Laughable.
Nebraska 100. Wow.
That would be the second betting odds favorite. Now it's probably they get action on Nebraska over some of these other schools, maybe because of their fan base. I don't know.
I mean, I get it. Like what we were saying before, just they play all those close games. Best 3-9 team college football history.
But there's no value in that. There's no value in that bet.
Yeah,
like that's like the peak of what they should be.
Beyond the peak.
Yeah. I mean, Casey Thompson's probably an upgrade over Adrian Martinez, and that could be swinging them in some of these games. But you're anticipating that all the other things that kept, those games could have just been kept close by some luck. I think we just played bad against them. Maybe a lot of teams just did last year.
Yeah.
That was Stroud's worst game. And it was part of it was because Nebraska played well. But they also lost some good players on their defensive side of the ball. And they had not been a consistently good defense in forever.
I'm not throwing any money on Nebraska. That's for sure.
Penn State plus 1,600 could be interesting.
Yeah, it's not bad.
No, not for a team with the. I mean, they stack together top 10 classes. They got talent on that roster. Yeah. If something happens to C.J. Stroud, they got a chance. Wisconsin plus 1,200, the favorites out of the West. That's not bad odds either, considering that you're going to get worse odds in the Big Ten championship game if they make it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? They're going to be plus 600 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe even worse.
Yeah. Then Michigan plus 600 as the number 2 betting favorite. Now, like I said, Michigan plus 600 as the number 2 betting favorite. That's out there. So where do you think Ohio State is as the favorite?
So I knew that I figured we'd be almost even money. So I was debating which side, and earlier I said plus 150, but I don't know if it's a thing to be completely even. So I'm going to change it to say even money.
Minus 225.
Oh,
We are a 1-2 favorite to win the conference.
okay, that is terrible. Do not bet on that.
No. It's the value. That's why it's there. They really think we're going to win the Big Ten.
God, so you bet $1,000, you're winning like 400.
I know. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. Like you don't want to be messing with that at all.
No, I'd say Minnesota or Wisconsin would probably be the best odds there out of everybody.
Yeah. Say the only conference similar to this is the ACC. Clemson's minus 140 there, with the U at plus 500 as the number 2, NC State number 3, plus 750.
We're more likely to win the Big Ten than Clemson is with the trash ACC. I guess
they're still not a believer in that Clemson offense.
I mean, they had a down year last year, but I mean, so did we.
I think they bounce back. I think they make the playoffs this year, to be honest.
I mean, who else do you pick? You know, I mean, you got to pick. You're picking Bama. You're picking probably Georgia. You're picking us or Big Ten champ. Who else?
I'm taking Georgia out this year. That's a lot. They lost on defense, and that's what they are as a defensive team. I don't see them, especially with Stetson Bennett at quarterback, becoming like a juggernaut on offense. They can be a good offense. They were last year. They'll be good, but that's not scoring 40 points every week, no matter who you're playing offense.
So you're putting Big 12 champ in, I assume, not Pac-12.
Maybe actually, I am putting Pac-12. I think I got Utah.
Utah,
which is a popular pick too. Utah or USC, whoever wins that game. And I know USC has a lot of flaws, especially on the lines. But they're not like they're playing a bunch of juggernauts on their schedule. And Notre Dame's and Utah, and the Utah game will be tough. And I think it's at Utah too. That's why I have Utah winning it.
I don't think.
But they have talent at the skill positions that not many teams do. They got a stud quarterback. I don't know, a huge fan of him, but he's definitely a huge upgrade at quarterback coming in with Lincoln Riley. And obviously the Blitnikoff winners there now, Addison. They got talent. They brought in Arizona State's linebacker, came in there to bolster the defensive unit. But other than that, they got a lot back on their, I think 17 starters back on a Rose Bowl team that should have beat us, to be honest, the way we played most of that game.
Defense came to play in the second half minus the last drive.
Yeah.
That's really what saved us.
That is.
But that and Stroud playing out of his mind and Jigba. But the Pac-12, it just always seems like they eat each other up. Like there's always like two good teams normally, and then each one of them loses to some shit team. And
it seems like there's always a team that has the other team's number. Like the best team is just another team has their number, like Oregon with Utah last year.
Washington or Arizona State will come out of nowhere and upset somebody, or it just seems like it happens every year.
Yeah. I do think USC and Utah are clearly the two best teams. I mean, Oregon is ranked higher than USC, and they've recruited really well, but they've had a lot of turnover. They lost their coach. They lost Mark Cristobal. Their quarterback was okay last year, but not great. I don't know. Let's move on to we'll pick our playoff teams in a second, but let's move on to the Heisman odds. And this is where I think there's some bang for the bucks. There's a few guys worth throwing some money down on. But your leader in the clubhouse is one CJ Stroud from our Buckeyes, plus 200. Not great odds. I don't know if I'd throw money down on that. I think Bryce Young at plus 350 is an even worse value bet, considering it's hard to win it a second time for a lot of reasons. He's going to have to shred it. Like, you almost have to do better than you did the year before. The dude threw for 4,870 yards and 48 touchdowns last year. That is hard to improve upon.
Yeah, and that is why he's not the favorite, I think. I mean, the fact that he won it means that he's not most likely not going to win it. If he didn't win it last year, and they like say Anderson won it last year,
mm-hmm.
Young
should have. Will Anderson should have won it last year.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams plus 700 is the last one really in the top tier.
No chance.
No chance. I think there's a chance. He's going to put up numbers, and if they go 11-1 or 12-1 and and end up in the playoff, I think he will win it. Maybe it depends on Stroud's numbers, I guess. But he'll be right there behind CJ Stroud if they turn around USC, who was also like 4-8 last year, and all of a sudden he comes in there and with Jordan Addison just shreds the Pac-12. But 7-1 is not great odds even for that to happen, though. That seems unlikely.
Yeah.
Now the next tier is where I like Will Anderson Jr. at plus 2,000. He's got the big thing he's got is it's like Cincinnati last year as a team trying to get in the playoffs. They got the preseason recognition to where everybody is already talking about it. So they're going to want to see it happen. Now they'll have to put up a huge year like Chase Young did, which I think Chase would have won it that year had he not been suspended. If he gets to 18 sacks or 20 sacks because he missed the Rutgers game, he's going to shred their O-line for sure. And he was getting 3 or 4 sacks in games like that, like the whole year.
Yeah.
If he had 20 sacks, I think he wins it. And I think Will Anderson Jr. could get 20 sacks because that's a manimal down there.
Yeah. So he had 17.5 last year, right?
And like 34 tackles for loss or something obscene.
Yeah. And I will never bet on a defensive player to win it. I just won't. I mean, Ndamukong Suh, he should have won it.
Mm-hmm.
Chase Young, I mean, I guess because he didn't play the full season. I just don't think voters. There's just something in the back of most of their minds that the analytical, the statistics aren't there as far as like 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Those kind of numbers where it's 15 sacks and 30 tackle for loss.
You need to score some touchdowns at least. Like he's going to need.
Yeah.
But if he gets 20 sacks, I think he wins it. But if he gets like say 17.5 sacks again, but he forces like what Nick Bosa was doing at the beginning of the season that his year where he's forcing fumbles like crazy. If you force 7 fumbles and you recover 2 for touchdowns, like all of a sudden like you're the one scoring touchdowns too. Like it's something that's doable.
Like you were saying about Young, he needs to somehow improve on that ridiculous season last year to win it.
Okay. Yeah, which is hard to do. Bijon Robinson also at plus 2,000. I just don't see it for him, to be honest. Running backs have been hard to win it, and his stats weren't that great last year because his O-line wasn't that good. Obviously, he's got better players around him, including somebody on the next tier. Quinn Ewers is plus 2,800. That's laughable. They do have good talent, but his first year as a starter, it sounded like it was quite the battle there that he never really separated himself, but he got it probably because of his NIL crap.
Yeah,
we'll see. And DJ Uiagalelei, however the hell you say it, is plus 2,500 there too. He's got a shot just because I think Clemson's going to be good, and it's like the Todd Beckman effect. If you're the quarterback of a team that's in the playoffs, you're up there for it.
Uiagalelei, something like that.
Uiagalelei. Some more guys I like their odds. Jackson Smith-Njigba plus 3,300. Not obscene. I mean, it'd be hard, but it's not out of the question that he puts up a 110 catch, 2,000 yard, 15 touchdown season. It's not out of the question.
No, that's my dark horse for sure. Do you remember Devontae's numbers? I'd have to look those up when he won it.
It was obscene. It was like 1,700 yards and 100 catches and like 17 touchdowns or something like that. And he had some punt return touchdowns too, which I don't think Jackson's going to get.
No,
I think that helped put him over the top.
That's a boot, but yeah, I think he could be right there. I mean, we could have 2 finalists.
And here's 2 guys that I just love the value on them. Our tailback Trayvon Henderson plus 4,000. Bet 100 to win $4,000. I'll take that on a guy that's gonna put up huge stats like he just is. We've seen Ryan Day have 2 different running backs, J.K. Dobbins and Andre Williams, put up monster seasons. Even though Mike Williams is good, he's way better, and he's got everything in front of him. The blocking should be improved in the run game at every level, except maybe even tight end, because I mean Ruckert's a good blocker, but he's not a great blocker, so it shouldn't be like I don't think considerably worse with Cade Stover. Better run blocking O-line, though. Better run blocking receivers. Perhaps a quarterback that is more willing to run the ball, which opens it up even more for him. And a coach that we've seen give the ball to running backs and put up huge stats.
Yeah, those are great odds. And then what was in Jigba's? It was 3,500?
33.
33. Okay. Man, I would have thought Henderson's odds were better than in Jigba's. Okay.
Yeah. And another one I like is Anthony Richardson at Florida. He's on everybody's list because of the physical tools that he has to go in the first round of the draft, even though he's only, I think, ran the ball like 56 times and thrown it like 66 times, or maybe the opposite there in his career. But he's got all huge physical tools. He's huge quarterback. He's going to put up big running stats for sure. And then to complement it with passing stats, it's all going to come down to this game against Georgia. If he can actually put together a game against their defense, he's going to have a great shot to win it. And plus 5,000 is great odds for that. And other than that, I mean, there's a lot of guys that Jordan Addison at plus 8,000. And Jack Miller also at Florida, no, plus 8,000. Sean Clifford at plus 10,000. Casey, how's that stroke for you?
Not a chance. There's only a handful of guys I would consider putting money on, and Stroud, I'm not putting $100 on the chance to win 220. It's just.
What about Baby Tua at plus 12,500?
I feel like he's better than Clifford.
I think there's a good. I think that's based on the team success. That Maryland's probably not going better than like 7-5.
True.
And it's impossible to win then. But yeah, I think they're great odds though. But I think CJ Stroud's going to take it home. But I wouldn't put the money on it because there's no value. All right, so real quick here to finish things up, your college football playoff. We both have the Buckeyes in, I believe. How do you see it breaking down?
I think if it all happens how I expect it to, I would think we'll actually be number one just because of our schedule. I know the SEC, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure they'll bloat their schedule.
Texas is back, though, so you get automatically a pre-win for that.
Yeah, but I think when it's all said and done, I think our schedule will be tougher than Bama's. So I think we'll be 1, Bama will be 2. And then Bama will beat Georgia in the SEC title game. Drop them to 4, and Clemson will be 3. That's
yeah, I have Georgia out because I think that'll be their second loss in that title game. I think they dropped one somewhere along the line before that. So I'll have Bama 1 because I think they run the table and it's not that hard. I don't think their schedule is actually that hard. I'm not a big believer in Texas A&M or LSU this year. LSU could be kind of tricky though. Brian Kelly, I don't think it's weird because you don't think of him as the greatest coach in the world, but he seems to get results wherever he's been, and they have a lot of talent at LSU. And I don't think Ed Orgeron was a very good. Ed Orgeron stepped into the right situation where they needed just a kind of a player's coach there for that 1 year.
He got Burrow there.
Yeah, he got Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. That's nice. Alabama 1, Ohio State 2. Then I'm gonna have Clemson 3 and Utah 4 for mine, which I think is not going out on any sort of a limb, but I just like the way they're set up. Their schedule's set up nicely.
You got Ohio State, Clemson, part 4 of the playoff era.
I mean, who isn't jonesing for more Ohio State Clemson besides everyone that's not an Ohio State Clemson fan? And I think we are. I mean, they do have a great D-line. Great D-line. That'd be tough for us. But I think the overall talent on this team and our defense against their offense, if they're as good as I'm thinking, will be the mismatch that leads us to taking over, winning that game eventually. And it's hard to stop a good pass game even with a good D-line. If you're not on top of CJ Stroud immediately, it's going to be hard.
The X factor would be what concerns me in that one. Just like 19, when we played them again in 20, I was like, oh, we are going to fuck them up.
Yeah, it is. The revenge factor is always big.
That's a little worried if we play them again.
Bama takes care of Utah just because the same problem most 4 seeds have against 1 seeds. The talent disparity is huge unless it's the 4 seeds team that stumbled somehow. And isn't one of these is either Bama or Ohio State or Georgia or somebody that's recruited out of their mind and just had that one loss that they shouldn't have had. Then Ohio State Bama rematch part 3 of the playoff era championship finals. And I think this is the year that the young man passes up the master of Saban. I think Dave's got it. I know you differentiate with me here.
Yeah, I've got us beating Georgia in the first game, Bama smacking Clemson, and then I think it'll be a great game. But I just, for whatever reason, my gut's just telling me it's just too good to be true this year. I think we're going.
I mean, part of it does feel that way. If the Notre Dame game is the one that worries me the most, man. I'm telling you, everything's just so hyped right now. Where I'm like, it can't be this easy, can it?
Yeah.
And every time we seem to feel that way, that's when things don't go well. But yeah, I'll say Ohio State 42, Bama 35, just like the semifinal in 2014. 2 super talented teams though, and Will Anderson could beat us by himself if that would be the X factor. I think in that game is, can we block Will Anderson? If we can, I think we put up. If anybody can't get the Stroud, we're putting up 40. Just the way it is.
I was Bama 35, us 31 in a nail biter.
So you do think Will Anderson dumps our guys out of the first round again, and we still don't have a first round offensive tackle?
Unfortunately.
All right. Well, that's all our time for today. Thanks for stopping by again for the View from C-Deck. And like us on YouTube here, comment, let us know why we actually should be just betting all our money on CJ Stroud because it's just a lock. Let us know that we're idiots for thinking that Michigan's going to be good. That's fine. Trash talk Michigan all you want. Like us, review us anywhere you find the podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hey guys! Well, see you later.
A rich man's